Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and today we are doing our final Golden Globes predictions. We've only done one of these so far, so It feels right. I think we should just dive into this best film drama.
Of course.
The most interesting maybe category here.
Well, the Golden Globes nominations are coming out on December 11th. That is 1 week from today as of recording, and it is definitely not 1 week as of releasing the video. I think things are pretty set in stone. Nothing's really going to change from now till the nominations come out, so I feel confident locking it in at this point. It's so exciting to get to this big time of the year where we get these first televised nominations announced. So yeah, let's start film drama. You'll see both of our lineups here. And of course, as always, anything that is in purple is something that we have seen. So you'll see the usual suspects: Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro as my top three. But then I had to kind of think through a couple of things after that. I decided on putting two A24 movies into the top. So I've got Past Lives and The Iron Claw. No, I don't have the Zone of Interest. Seems like Zone of Interest might just kind of be on a downward trajectory. And finishing off my six, I have Anatomy of a Fall. And Anatomy could be very interesting. We've never seen a foreign language film nominated in the main category. That and The Iron Claw, I am so unconfident in.
Globes, if they want a Globe, they can go with Naiad, they can go with Napoleon, they could go maybe even with like something like Priscilla. I know a lot of people out there are saying Saltburn. I don't buy that at all.
No, I don't buy Saltburn.
However, my list is pretty similar to yours as well. I have Oppenheimer as my 1, Killers of the Flower Moon at number 2, Maestro at 3, Past Lives at 4, and then this is where I kind of have my question marks. What directions do I sort of go into? And I had to think, what do the other categories look like? I, a little bit spoiler, have Andrew Scott in my actor, so I have Strangers here and drama, and then I have Sandra Hüller in actress, so I put Anatomy of a Fall in. However, we get to nomination morning and something like Ingenue Ellis gets in. Origin could be making its way into drama. I know the Globes were one of the first places to really show Coda some extra love. Not saying Origin's next Coda, but they gave Coda love in these big categories where some other big awards bodies weren't at the beginning of the season. Naiad could spoil, but I wouldn't want to see that. And who knows, if they're going international, yeah, Anatomy is half in English, half in French. But they could full send it with Society of the Snow.
They could. They absolutely could, but I don't think that's likely. We didn't even see that with All Quiet on the Western Front last year, so Society of the Snow is a big reach. So let's move on to Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama. The obvious two, I'd say it's only two that are really obvious here, and that's Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, who is winning, hands down. She's gonna win this category, and Carey Mulligan from Maestro. Those are the two that are undeniable. Now, what else is possible? I would say my next four in line are Sandra Hüller, Anatomy of a Fall, who has the critics' love. She has the strength of her film probably being in Best Motion Picture Drama and Best Motion Picture International. There's also Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla, Ingenue Ellis Taylor for Origin, who might be a little bit of a wild card pick for me, but I just feel confident that that's the type of performance that the Globes will really fall head over heels for, and maybe no one else will. And then Annette Bening for Naiad as our total, Globes, SAG, and nothing else nominee. But what else do you think is possible, Dylan?
I currently have Greta Lee for Past Lives, and I would love to see Ingenue Ellis get in for Origin. Honestly, I had her in my predictions. I'm like, but I have Past Lives in some other categories. Can I really have Greta Lee not make it as well? Maybe it's smart to, switch up some of the nominees across the board, but I have her in here as well. And looking at some of the other contenders here, I mean, this category isn't very deep because, as you know, Globe split drama and comedy, and we have a lot of big comedy musical contenders this year. So really the only other name that really jumps out to me is one I've been singing the praises of all year long, and it's Tiana Taylor for 1001. But I think someone like Ingenue Ellis or Greta Lee or Bening would be a lot stronger than someone like her.
Do you think it's possible that Helen Mirren could get in for Golda?
The caked up Helen Mirren performance, maybe she could get in, but I'm going to leave from the outside.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to put her in. I just want to know if she's possible.
I think Bening would kind of take the votes away where she may get them, and I don't know they could coexist.
I totally agree. I don't think that they can coexist either, but I could see an argument for Helen Mirren getting in. I could see that being one of the biggest surprises. There's also the possibility, I guess, Jessica Chastain could get in for Memory. That would be a really wild, very out there pick. Otherwise, I don't really see anything else here. So we can move on to the next category. And Dylan, why don't you take us through some of your lineup for Best Film Drama Actor?
I would love to, because this is another one where drama actress, there's a very clear top 7, top 8. It's who is the outside looking in? So Bradley Cooper, Maestro, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Leonardo DiCaprio, Killers of the Flower Moon. These 3 guys, 100% in.
Yes.
Coleman Domingo for Rustin.
100%.
I know you're going to make a case here shortly. I have him in. I think it would be very weird if he's on the outside, one based off of some of the other performances like notoriety. But I do have him as my 4 slot. I have Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon at my 5. I could easily see him be subbed out with someone like Zac Efron, more of that star power where they're in the category. Their movie may not be as strong, but the performance has been getting praise. And then at my 6, I have Andrew Scott for All of Us Strangers.
So I would have Coleman Domingo swapped out for Zac Efron. And the reason being, I have Coleman Domingo getting into supporting actor in a little bit. And I don't know if they'd go for both, especially because Rustin kind of just vanished. No one talked about it. No one watched it on Netflix. I mostly agree with your lineup with Joaquin, Andrew Scott. So what else is there that could make it in? For one thing, if they really, really, really love Past Lives, Yu Teo, we could see Barry Keoghan happen for Saltburn. I know both of us would not like that, but the Globes do really seem to like Barry Keoghan. If I remember correctly, they were one of the first groups last year to go for him, which kind of made him enter into the race. Adam Driver for Ferrari. Now, the Globes, as you've mentioned before, the Globes don't love Adam Driver. They didn't nominate him for House of Gucci. They didn't nominate him for Annette when his co-stars did get nominations for both of those films. But I think that's really all that's possible, unless they go really out there and go with Michael Fassbender for The Killer, or maybe Mahershala Ali for Leave the World Behind.
Now we flip it over to Best Film Comedy Musical. A few weeks ago, we had a clear 6. If you had anything other than those 6, you'd be kind of considered crazy. But then we got the news May December is competing in comedy musical. So now we have a 7, and with the emergence of Wonka, we have an 8. What direction do you go in? Well, I am going with Barbie, The Color Purple, American Fiction, Poor Things, The Holdovers, and then I have May December knocks out Air.
I would be, on the other hand, surprised if May December knocked out anything, because May December is decidedly not a fucking comedy. It is definitely has some elements of melodrama that are a little bit overblown to the point where you might chuckle at a line like her looking in the fridge and saying, I don't think we have enough hot dogs, and then cutting to a billion hot dogs on a grill. That type of thing, it's funny. This movie is disturbing and depressing, and it is, I think, a significant misreading of a lot of it if you're seeing this as first and foremost a comedy. I just don't see the Globes saying, yeah, this is one of the funniest movies of the year. This is a great comedy. I know that they don't always nominate based on, whether it actually is a good comedy, because, they nominated Vice, which was depressing as hell. They nominated Get Out, which was definitely had some comedic elements. It was a satire, but it was not a comedy. And the famous one, The Martian, which I have no problem with. I think The Martian's a comedy for sure. May December just doesn't feel like one that they'll nominate. So for me, I've got American Fiction at number 1, followed by Barbie at number 2, Poor Things at number 3, The Holdovers at number 4, Color Purple at number 5, and Wonka at number 6. Yes, I do have Air missing. Outside of what you've already mentioned, I think we should also think of the possibility of something like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's like a few steps behind. Personally, I would love to see Napoleon compete in this category like The Martian and get nominated, but that's not going to happen.
Napoleon is not a comedy. I'm sorry. It might be ridiculous and bad, but so bad it's good. Movies do not make it in.
We're going to go over to our best actress in a musical or comedy. My lineup is Emma Stone at number 1, Fantasia Barrino at number 2, Margot Robbie for number 3, and then is where I think the category becomes a little bit more open as we talk about. Throughout all of these, I have May December's Natalie Portman at 4, Halle Bailey for The Little Mermaid at 5, and Jennifer Lawrence for No Hard Feelings at 6. I really want to have Abby Ryder-Fortson for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, because they do like nominating kids' performances. I just don't know who to kick out, though.
Jennifer Lawrence. Dude, my guy, Jennifer Lawrence.
I just think star power will reign supreme.
No, but that's not how you made the same argument last year for Sandra Bullock in The Lost City.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The Golden Globes don't go for the raunchy comedies.
You're right. I'll switch. Abby Ryder-Fortson's in. Jennifer Lawrence is out.
Ba-boom, ba-bap,
Boom.
baby. I got the same top 3 as you. Emma Stone, Fantasia, Barrino, and Margot Robbie. Those 3 are unshakable. Then after that, I do have Abby Ryder-Fortson. The final 2 I'm torn on, because on Gold Derby, I have Natalie Portman for May December, but that just feels wrong. It doesn't feel right for May December to get any comedy nominations. She's one of the stronger contenders, so we'll give her this. We'll put her there. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus rounds out my top 6 on Gold Derby for You Hurt My Feelings. However, I really think that someone who's not on Gold Derby is going to get the nomination, and that is Sarah Bareilles for Waitress the Musical Live. The precedent for Sarah Bareilles is that a few years ago they nominated both Lin-Manuel Miranda and Leslie Odom Jr. for Hamilton, and if they could do that, then they can absolutely do Sarah Bareilles. She's much stronger, I believe, than Julia Louis-Dreyfus. The only thing is maybe the Golden Globes Committee has not seen Waitress the Musical, because it does release on December 7th, so it'll be like a couple days before nominations, and if they didn't send out screeners, it will not get a nomination. Other possibilities in the category, I could see Eve Hewson for Flora and Son. I could see a surprise nomination for Emily Blunt for Pain Hustlers, or one of the quiz ladies, Sandra Oh or Awkwafina.
I mean, in a perfect world, we would see AO get in for Bottoms, but as we talked about in our last Golden Globe prediction, I just think Bottoms is not a Globes movie at all, and something that they're not even considering.
Yeah, I don't think Bottoms is something that will even cross their path.
I have one that could be like a what the hell type nomination. It's not on Gold Derby because I doubt the studio cares about this movie anymore because they just announced they're stopping reporting the box office grosses of the Marvels. But what if Amon Vellani gets in?
She could, but I mean, wouldn't she be supporting?
I think if they were campaigning, they would all be leads like the Hamilton guys were, but again, it's a non-factor at all. Disney doesn't care about the Marvels anymore.
That would be
it's like
such a good nomination, though. Oh my god!
Because I say that because they are receptive to kids.
Is there any way Rachel Zegler could compete in comedy musical?
That would be a drama.
It would be drama, but like I guess it would be drama. But they put Star Is Born in drama, so that would be in drama. But like she's singing most of the runtime. Put her in musical actress. Come on.
You know, normally I'm against category fraud, but I would be all for that. Speaking of category fraud, I wish we had that here in Best Film Comedy Musical Actor because Napoleon would slide in well to this 6 with Joaquin Phoenix, but instead we're struggling to pick 6 names. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, Timothy Chalamet, Wonka, Matt Damon, Air. I think these are the consensus. If you don't have these 4, you are swinging for the fences. And at 5 and 6, I'm not really sure what to do here. Joaquin Phoenix has another performance, Beau is Afraid. I think that's a movie that the Globes won't touch with a 10-foot pole, but The Burial seems so much up the Globes alley for Jamie Foxx, so I have him at my number 5 slot. 6, though, not really sure. I really like Theater Camp, but Ben Platt was by far not the highlight of that movie, and he's the one who's being campaigned, so probably not that. Next Goal Wins, Fassbender, I don't think was very good in it. I don't think that was his fault. That was the writing of the character. Dumb Money would be kind of cool for Paul Dano, but I don't see them really reaching for that movie, so that leaves me with Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario. Does it seem like the most likely nomination? No. I know he missed last year for Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, but maybe this year they're like, oh, you've been doing some good comedy work in the last few years. Let's give you kind of like a all-in-one type nomination.
I would love to see that for Nicolas Cage, but I am going to stick with Jamie Foxx and Michael Fassbender for Next Goal Wins, unfortunately. But if they don't go with Fassbender, I could see them reaching really far and going with Gael Garcia Bernal for Cassandro, something that we aren't even considering right now. Like, I don't know, maybe Jay Baruchel would be a crazy cool pick for Blackberry. That'd be awesome.
The Globes on category fraud, bring up Glenn Howerton from supporting, put him in lead.
That is true. He is arguably.
I mean, it wouldn't even that big of a fraud either. He's basically a co-lead.
It would be a great pick because he's not going to make it into this crazy supporting field. So let's move over to Best Supporting Actor now. This one's hard. I think that there's 3 or 4 consensus picks here, which would be Ryan Gosling, Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro, RRR, and Mark Ruffalo. I guess Mark Ruffalo's number 4 in a consensus. I don't know if he's actually number 4. Now, a lot of people would say Charles Melton. Charles Melton. I personally think Charles Melton is only going to be a critics thing. Might make it into BAFTA. I don't think he's going to make it into Golden Globe or SAG. I do not have Charles Melton in my lineup. I do have Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, as I believe that they are going to go over the top for American Fiction. And then I also have Coleman Domingo for The Color Purple.
I would love if Sterling K. Brown could get in for American Fiction. I loved his performance. As I said, that was my highlight from that movie and one of my personal favorite supporting actors of the year. Speaking of category fraud, if the Globes really want to, they could put Gosling in the lead the same way that Bakalova got in for lead for Borat. They won't.
They've already said that they aren't doing it.
They won't do it, but it could, help things out for our predicting purposes. But yeah, I also have Downey, Gosling, De Niro, Ruffalo, and Domingo, but I do have Melton in as my 5 slot. slot instead of Sterling K. Brown, but I would not be upset at all if Sterling K. Brown got in and knocked out someone else here. Looking for some other contenders, Jacob Elordi, Priscilla. Crazier things could happen. I don't think they would go for it, but he's someone who could be like that big shocker nomination that the Globes sometimes do throughout. Dominic Sessa, The Holdovers, the Globes show
they
throughout.
like nominating
They
kids.
don't mind doing kids. Maybe he can find his way into a lineup of 6 over here.
Maybe they also just love Oppenheimer so much that, hey, here you go, Matt Damon. Or, Willem Dafoe could happen for Poor Things. That said, the way I see the season going is Mark Ruffalo gets every single nomination and Willem Dafoe keeps missing until the Oscars, when suddenly Willem Dafoe is there and Mark Ruffalo is either there with him or is missing. I'm going to say we do not get Willem Dafoe here, but we will see him pop up later on. There's also the argument for Ben Affleck for Air.
Speaking of a category that's also pretty sporadic, we have Best Film Supporting Actress, because here we get 6 slots with a category where we maybe know 2, 3 of the nominations.
You were going to so disagree with me on what I've picked. So I'm going to say that there are 2 locks here, with a few that are close to locks. Danielle Brooks and Divine Joy Randolph are both locked. And close to locked, I'd say Taraji P. Henson, because we haven't seen if the Color Purple ladies can coexist yet. This is going to be the show. So Taraji P. Henson is the next closest to locked. And then, even though I don't have her in my Oscar lineup, Emily Blunt is pretty close to locked here. So to follow that up, you are going to not be happy with me right now. Rosamund Pike, Saltburn.
Yeah, I'm not going to be happy because everything I heard about the movie ahead of time, that she was in it not much, and to me, she was in it a lot.
She was in it a ton.
She was kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. Well, she was doing it very well, but to me, I don't know. I just feel like if they're going to reach for a picture person, they're going to go with someone like Viola Davis or Jodie Foster.
Hey, I have Viola Davis in too. Rosamund Pike, her performance is the anchor of the movie. It's what holds it together and makes it not so ridiculous that it's just like unbearable. And she also makes it not boring because it's.
I agree.
It's
she makes it
mostly
not
pretty boring. But whenever she's on screen, I wasn't bored. I thought she was always doing the most. I believed her character. I think it's one of my favorite performances of hers. So I could definitely see the Globes like her a lot. They gave her an award for I Care a Lot. So. I could totally see Rosamund Pike make it here, even if it's the only nomination that Saltburn gets.
To me, I guess I do agree that she helps the movie not be boring, but she also plays into the absurdness. Almost everything she says is so far out of left field or out of pocket, which she could show up. Like you said, the Globes do love her. The Globes also do love Jodie Foster. They gave her a win for The Mauritanian that same year that Pike won for I Care a Lot. So if Naiad's getting an actress, if it's maybe in that 8 to 10 range of drama, maybe she can coast along at number 6. But looking at some other people in this category, because they are a lot, Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret. In another year, maybe she's a shoo-in. This year, maybe she isn't. It's just so crazy. We don't really know what the ladder looks like. Penelope Cruz for Ferrari, America Ferrera for Barbie, and then I'm sure there's other people, but Best Supporting Actress is 15 people deep at this moment, because we don't really have a consensus outside of, like you mentioned, Randolph, Brooks, and most likely Henson of who our top 3 are.
Well, if they really, really love American Fiction, as I expect them to, they could go with Erica Alexander or Tracee Ellis Ross.
If they were to go with one, I feel like it would be more for Ross. She is very much a scene stealer throughout that movie. And then, Issa Rae is an option as well for speaking about scene stealers in American Fiction.
There's also Julianne Moore for May December.
Here's a fun one. What if instead of any of the other Oppenheimer, they just decided, you know what, screw it, Florence Pugh, you get in here in our lineup.
They
I know they won't, but
they will do Emily Blunt over Florence Pugh 110%. But what about Claire Foy and All of Us Strangers?
I mean, I'm the one who has Andrew Scott in my actor lineup.
Well, I think I do too now.
Okay.
But, I mean, All of Us Strangers, Claire Foy, I would love to see her get in, but the Globes doesn't feel like the place that she would get in. It's more of a Critics' Choice BAFTA performance, similar to Charles Melton. Then there's also Vanessa Kirby for Napoleon, if you're correct and they really love Napoleon.
I don't think they will really love Napoleon. I just have it getting Joaquin Phoenix, but I think that she would not be a nomination here. I'm excited to see the 4-hour cut to see if her character gets more to do, but to me, not a hate against Vanessa Kirby. Her character is probably the least interesting part of Napoleon.
Then let's move over to the film director category, where I think it's pretty clear that there's 4 locks, at least at the Globe. Some people will disagree with one of these as just a lock overall, because some people say Gerwig is just not happening. But at the Globes, She sure fucking is. So, the locks at this point are Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, Greta Gerwig, Barbie, Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, and then Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things. He's the shakiest of the locks, but I'd still say he's a lock. But if one of those locks comes unlocked, it's Yorgos Lanthimos. And then to finish off my top 6, I have Cord Jefferson for American Fiction, which is a Peter Farrelly-esque nomination. You know, sometimes you see that type of director, the one that's not really showy, doing a little bit more comedy that the Globes just eat up, and Bradley Cooper round out my lineup.
I have the same top 4 as you, just in a little bit different order, but Nolan is my 1. Bradley Cooper is my number 5, and then Blitz for The Color Purple is at my number 6. I kind of the same way that you feel about American Fiction. I think the Globes will love Color Purple across the board. How many wins it gets, that's another question, but I do think it will hit everywhere that it can.
So what else is possible here? I can already hear all of you yelling at me, Alexander Payne!
Alexander Payne!
Alexander Payne! Alexander Payne! No, I'm sorry. I don't have him here. He could happen, but I don't think he'd knock out Cord Jefferson, as many of you think. I think he'd knock out Bradley Cooper. But again, I just don't think The Holdovers is up there for this. Then there's Justine Triet, Anatomy of a Fall. If that's in picture, if it's in screenplay, if it's in actress, very possible that Justine Triet comes along here. And while Jonathan Glazer might be more likely for the Oscar, Triet is much more likely for the Golden Globe. There's also Celine Song for Past Lives. And the final one that I'll just reference as a possibility here would be Todd Haynes for May December. I don't think May December is getting in anywhere, but I could even see it miss in picture and make it in director.
Up next, we have the Best Film Screenplay category, and this is one where maybe I'm kind of going against the grain, because most people say, oh, it's Oppenheimer, oh, it's Poor Things, but I think it's Barbie. That's my number 1. Oppenheimer is 2, American Fiction at 3, Poor Things at 4. Then I think this is where the category opens up a little bit. I know Cold Derby says Holdovers is 5. I have Kills of the Flower Moon at 5. And then I'm reaching down a little bit. I have Past Lives. It just seems like a Globes type of movie. Will it win anything? I don't think so, but I think it does kind of hit where it needs to along the lines. Be like, hey, we're still in the race. Are we strong overall? Maybe not, but we hit very well with this awards body. So that's my number 6. Other things, looking at the Gold Derby odds right here, they believe that Holdovers is in the 6. Then they have Anatomy of the Fall, Maestro, May December, and Air on the outside looking at.
I have most of the same lineup as you. That said, I do have American Fiction winning. And to swap out Killers of the Flower Moon and Past Lives, I instead have Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers. Anatomy of a Fall has been performing exceptionally well with screenplay prizes so far this season. Yes, it's very early, but if they really, really like Anatomy of a Fall, which it seems like they're going to, it would be a screenplay nominee. And actually, I'll say, even though Poor Things is currently the number 1 on the odds, I actually think it's really vulnerable to miss the screenplay nomination. But I feel really strong about American Fiction winning here. I think it's going to do basically a Globe sweep.
I mean, that's what I have Barbie basically doing as well. So we have the same thing in the comedy musical. We just have it for different movies at the moment.
And for the animated feature lineup, we have to keep in mind that the Golden Globes are pretty basic when it comes to animation. So for my lineup, I've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Now, one thing to keep in mind is back in 2013, the last time we had a Hayao Miyazaki movie, they did not nominate The Wind Rises for Best Animated Feature. They nominated it for Best Foreign Language Film.
That is fair. I don't know if the rules were different back then with like, oh, you can only be in one category. Because I know the Globes used to have some really weird rules when they pertain to documentaries, animation, and international features. But that's all right at the ship now. Obviously, we may have our first international feature in drama or comedy musical with Anatomy of the Fall this year. But it'll be interesting to see, does Boy and the Heron show up in multiple categories throughout the Globes nominations.
So some other possibilities that I see here. Wish is still possible. This could be an early... It could be an early sign that the poor critical and audience reception and box office for Wish is a lie, but it's not a lie. I think Wish is just going to be pretty dead. There's also Nimona and The Peasants. And maybe, just maybe, this is where we see the first sign of strength for Migration instead of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, if they want to go for one Illumination title. But to be honest, I think it's just Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, I currently have Wish in over Mario, but I will quickly accept my L once it happens. The Globes will show they will nominate movies that make a lot of money regardless of their critical praise. So Mario getting in here would not be a shocker at all. I have the same other 5 as you, though. Spider-Verse, Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Chicken Run, and TMNT. Minty.
For international feature, I think what we're going to see here is a total lack of correlation. So we're going to see Anatomy of a Fall. We're going to see Past Lives, which is going to be eligible there, which it won't be eligible anywhere else. We could see The Boy and the Heron make it here as well. Then the usual suspects from the Oscar race. We'll see The Zone of Interest, Society of a Snow, possibly The Taste of Things, or Perfect Days. We could also see The Peasants pop up here. Or, if we really want to jump to some recent big sensations, last year they nominated RRR. This year, we could see a similar thing to RRR get nominated and have the recent cultural sensation, a box office hit that's not in the English language, which would be Godzilla -1. Do you think that's possible that they could do that?
Look back at some of their previous ones to see if they go more like populist with some of their choices. It is a sensation, but on a smaller scale. I think that people who really like it seem to be loving it. It made about $10 million in its domestic debut, which for a movie like that is very well, but it's not like setting the box office on fire or anything like that. Globes seem to be very reactionary. If something's popping off at nomination morning or on the voting block window, they will go all out for it. As we mentioned before, the Rosamund Pike win for Academy Musical Actress. That movie was the #1 on Netflix the week of voting. Therefore, as you saw, it won the award. So maybe Godzilla is peaking at the right moment to get in there for a slot of 6, but also it would be very, I think, weird for them to do it, but I wouldn't put it past them. The Globes do like doing their own thing at times.
So overall, my top 6 is going to be Anatomy of a Fall, then Past Lives, Zone of Interest, The Boy and the Heron, Society of the Snow, and finally, I'll go with Perfect Days over Taste of Things.
So we're going to close out here with our achievement and box office. And there's about 20 or so movies that have met the eligibility so far. You have to make $100 million domestic, $200 million worldwide. Then they say some streaming movies will be eligible if like the streamers can provide evidence they meet some sort of metric. So stuff like The Killer, maybe. I'm not going to bank on that though. All the streaming movies I'm not considering. I think as a voter, if you hear box office achievement, you're not thinking about a streamer. Number 1, number 2, Barbenheimer, Barbie, Oppenheimer. Billion-dollar or near billion-dollar movies for both of them. Biggest movie of the year for Barbie. I think these are in, no questions about it. Eras Taylor Swift is at number 3. Set the World on Fire. Did it do as well as some people thought? Maybe not, but it's still the highest performing movie of this quality, of this type of all time. Then we have some more like leeway with stuff. I had a few animated and superhero movies getting in for these 4, 5, 6 slots. Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the Super Mario Bros. Movies. Some of these are very well critically acclaimed. Some of these made $1 billion. Some of these are both. So like I think these 3 movies have a great case to get in. Guardians, though, if you're looking at box office achievement, kind of broke even, but not by much. So there may be a small case, but again, it meets the threshold of what you need to be nominated. I don't know, do you get a list to vote, or are you just picking movies off the top of your head?
That's the big question with all of these Golden Globes things, because if you have to pick them off the top of your head, May December has no chance in any of the comedy categories. But
yes,
if it's a list provided to you, then a lot of other things will. So that's a big, big question, not just with this category, but across all of the different categories.
Speaking of that, though, if you don't see the physical box office receipts, you think Elemental shoo-in, it did make a small profit in theatrical, but like very small. One of the few Disney movies to make a profit this year, so maybe that gives it a boost, but people really did like this movie. It had great word of mouth, so I have it here getting it at number 7. As you see, I have 3 anime movies into this lineup, which I think is pretty cool. Number 8, though, there's a lot of ways I can go, but I'm going to go with the new Hunger Games movie, The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. It's got good reception, the core audience seems to really like it, and it has the box office to back it up. It's not getting any other nominations, so this seems like a perfect spot to give some recognition to that movie. So on the outside looking in of realistic type contenders that I have deemed that are eligible are Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. This movie lost money. Why are you voting for this? John Wick Chapter 4, I feel like there's no buzz for this. Paramount really wants there to be a campaign, but like I've seen nothing really started. Same thing for Creed 3. I think regardless of what you think about the movie's quality, there's just some stuff going around it. You're not really wanting to touch that movie at this moment. And then we have Sound of Freedom, which is by definition a box office achievement, but it's the movie, do you really want to touch it? Can bring in the wrong audience, but could bring in an audience that does give some sort of viewership support. And then we have 2 movies that have yet to come out that could meet this threshold, because to my understanding is studios can send in like, hey, these are numbers, these are tracking reports. These movies will meet the threshold. Wonka, Color Purple, both Warner Brothers movies. Wonka, I think definitely will hit this metric. Color Purple, maybe it comes up a little bit short here domestically. So For the sake of predictions, you have my 8 of what is eligible now. If they're going to include some of these movies coming out, I would put Wonka in over Hunger Games, but I would leave Color Purple out.
There's a lot of questions and a lot of ways that they could go. But that brings us to the end of our Golden Globes predictions, our final locked in. It's crazy to be here already. If you stayed with us all the way to the end of this video, drop a comment. Let us know what your biggest wildcard prediction is. I'm predicting the Iron Claw in 2 categories. That's wild. Let me know if you got anything crazier. As always, thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and this is Fantasy Filmball.